I met with an executive from a dealership group this week, got together to talk about the first 60 days of the BRP Quality Service Program. We were talking a little bit about observations, expectations. During the discussion, he asked me where I thought was the biggest opportunity for the dealership, and without a doubt, it is upselling on the service drive. And that's the focus of this short video. There's some key elements of a successful upselling process. First off, do you have a process? Is it documented? Secondly, do you have a good vehicle inspection form that you use? So let's start right there. Some of the dealerships that I've worked with have got some different options, and I'll show you these just looking at two. The first one is just a very basic one. It's just gathering information on a vehicle inspect report. What I find in a lot of cases that what the dealership is doing is they are just using the same form they would do for a trade evaluation. Typically it's relatively thorough, but it's really not a very good selling tool. One of the other dealers I'm dealing with have taken a different approach on it. One of the things that I try to stress to people is people learn and memorize things one of four different ways: listening and writing, watching, and doing. And I always tell people the more interaction you have with the customer, the higher the probability that they'll remember what you did. The other thing is, if you just use verbal, it probably will go in one ear and out the other. So one of the things I suggest is to maybe take the approach like you do at a doctor's office. Dr. Bill's been my physician for 23, 24 years. And one of the things that when I had my physical back in December, he just didn't tell me what was wrong with me and things I needed to watch. He came up with a report. And what that was is, if you take a look at it, it's just a very basic report. This is my blood work. Without going into a lot of details, one of the first things he started on was cholesterol. One of the things we've been watching for a number of years, and he came back to me and he said, you know, your cholesterol is a little high. And what he did is not just said it was high, and not just give me a number of 196, but he actually told me what the standard was, what the good parameters were. You know, up less than 200 is good. And he basically said to me, you're too close to being to the top level of good. So he highlighted and said, this is something we have to work on. How many times a week are you eating eggs? Are you eating cheese? What kind of exercise regimen do you have? I don't want to put you on atorvastatin, which will take it down because of the side effects. What can we do to do it? But he marked it yellow because one of the things he wanted to watch. On the opposite side, with my other cholesterol, my good cholesterol, my triglycerides and HDL, they're very good. And like as an example, he goes, your triglycerides are 61. Anything that's less than 150 is good, and you're well within the good range. Your HDL is 56. Anything greater than 39 is good. So he highlighted that in green. Now, I didn't have anything that stood out as being bad, but just suppose my glucose, looking to see if I was diabetic or not, suppose that number was 115. On the side, he's got the standard is between 70 and 99 is the good range. If I was over it, he would highlight it in red. I'm going to remember this a lot more than I'm just going to remember it verbally. So that's one of the key things that we try to focus on. So as a result, what the dealership did is it follows what they kind of do in the automotive, is they came up with a little bit more thorough plan, and what they did is they used different color codes on it. So they use, if something's well within the specification, they'll use the green. If it's on the low end of the specification, they'll use yellow. If it's a safety issue or outside of spec, they'll use red. And they also added a column in here where if the customer declined, that they could mark that and then get the customer's signature. So if you take a look at the differences in the forms, which one is going to have a better impact on the customer? The second thing is you've got to explain the process to the customer from the front end. So as an example, if I go to see Steve, my computer guy, and he tells me I need a new hard drive without telling me anything about it, I'm going to be saying, oh, Steve, you're just trying to sell me something. So key to this whole vehicle inspection process and upselling is telling the customer what you're going to do. So what you'll say to them, while your vehicle is in for service, our technician is going to do a physical on your unit. He's going to basically look at its operation, see what's within specification, what's coming close to being out of specification, any issues, it'll be a safety issue. And then I'll come back with your report. Would that be fair enough? Great. This way you've told the customer it's coming, so when you present the report to him, it's key. Another key element of this process is getting a timely vehicle inspection report. A lot of times I go to dealerships and number one, the technician may not do a vehicle inspection report. So one of the key things to do is make sure that this is attached, the report is attached to the back of the RO and has to be taken for action. The second part of that is most of the technicians will say, well, I don't get paid to do it. My question to them is, if you don't do it and you don't upsell, then how are you going to make any more money? So that's a key point. So what you want to do is, when they want a timely vehicle inspection report back, this is what we have to talk about. If you're doing just a basic service on the unit, what you should be doing is the inspection report maybe while you're doing the draining the oil out, so that you can give the report back to the advisor before the unit comes off of the lift, out of the service bay, so to give the advisor a chance to upsell the customer, and if they do it in a timely manner, you won't have to bring the unit back in. You can finish it while it's there. Now let's talk about the point where the customer comes in for a customer concern. What would you think if a technician and advisor called you and said you need to replace your tires, your brakes, and your transmission is slipping, without telling you anything about what you brought the vehicle in for? You would be saying you're trying to sell me something instead of taking care of my unit. So what you want to do is the technician should be providing the concern, what the finding was, what the resolution is, what the service would be, at the same time that they're finishing up the vehicle inspection report. That way the advisor can talk about the big picture. Oh, we found your concern, this was the issues, this is what it'll take to fix it, would you like to go ahead and take care of that? By the way, remember that vehicle inspection report I said, kind of like going to the doctor to get a physical? Here's the report, let me run through this, everything's looking pretty good. Here's a few issues you better watch. As a matter of fact, the brakes are at 10 millimeters. Right now yours are 3. Typically you want to replace them by 2 millimeters, because if you wait too much longer than that, you possibly could ruin the rotors and it'll cost you an extra $200 or $300. Is that something you'd like to take care of today? Give the customer an option. By doing it at the same time, you're kind of capturing everything there. If the customer declines a service, especially one that's recommended and it's a safety issue, we should get the customer to sign some kind of declination that they did not take it. That way, if it's a safety concern and something happens and somebody's hurt, you don't have to worry about a lawyer coming back and saying, well, why didn't you tell them? Why didn't you tell them that they needed to fix it? You can show them the form that tells them that you did make the recommendation and the customer declined. Now, let's talk a little bit, one last thing and finish up with this, is we need to measure our success and failure. And one of the things, KPIs, Key Performance Indexes, we look at is how many dollars of parts did you sell versus how many dollars in labor hours did you sell. A few years ago, you typically would have almost $1 of parts to $1 of labor. That number's dropped a little bit because of the way you service most units now. However, the good stores are in that 70% range. So as an example, if you did $10,000 of parts this month and $30,000 of labor, that's about 33%. That would typically be an indication that there's opportunities for upselling. So that's one of the things we want to look at. So what we want to do is try to push the parts up versus the labor hours. How do you do that? You do it through upselling and using an effective vehicle inspection report. Again, my name is Ed Stefanko. I'm one of the trainers with the VRP Quality Program. I work for you. You can always reach me on my cell phone number, which is 817-896-3183. That's 817-896-3183. My goal is to have the advisors and the technicians make as much money as you can. Because if you do that, the dealership will do just fine. The principals will be happy. The vehicle inspection report, the process that you use for upselling, is the key to that success. Thank you for your time. Have a wonderful day.